I can't stay married to a man who only brings in $900 a month. There was silence on the other end of the line, and I could almost picture my mother-in-law's shock. Are you there? Did you hear me? The mother of a man who earns just $900 a month? What are you talking about? I'm talking about Bob. He makes $900 a month from his part-time job. You must be mistaken. Surely you're missing a zero. No, I'm not. It's exactly $900 a month. My name is Florence, a 29-year-old housewife. I married Bob 5 years ago, and we've been living in a modest apartment ever since. We don't have children yet, and while we're not wealthy, we've always managed to live comfortably, stress-free, pursuing the work we both love. But about 6 months ago, a dark cloud began to loom over our once peaceful life. My mother-in-law, who lived nearby, suddenly insisted on moving in with us. Despite our repeated attempts to explain that it wasn't feasible, she refused to listen. To my dismay, my husband gradually started taking her side, which caused a significant strain on our relationship. Then he made a decision that changed everything. Ever since my father-in-law passed away a few years ago, my mother-in-law had been living alone in her house. She managed just fine, but recently she claimed to feel uncomfortable living by herself and demanded to move in with us. However, the real issue wasn't her loneliness. Her house was old and in desperate need of renovations to remain livable. Instead of spending money on repairs, she concocted the idea of moving in with us, hoping to avoid the expense altogether. When we got married, my husband promised we would never live with his parents. Their house is just a 10-minute drive away, so if she ever needed anything, we could be there in no time. I've always known that my mother-in-law wasn't fond of me, even before we got married. She still takes every opportunity to make sarcastic remarks. Moving in with her would only amplify her hostility, and she would turn into the worst kind of mother-in-law. To make matters worse, she recently quit her part-time job and is now unemployed. If she were to move in with us, we would inevitably have to cover her living expenses, and with our current financial situation, that's simply not possible. But my mother-in-law dismissed my concerns, saying, "Don't act so proud when my son is the one supporting you." I explained to her that I work from home and contribute to our household, but she ignored me. She insisted that with her son's income, we could live extravagantly. There's no way we can survive on my husband's income alone, so I asked my mother-in-law if she even knew how much he makes each month. Without hesitation, she responded, "Of course, he's my son, and you're lucky to be married to such a well-paid man." I thought to myself, really? If my husband's salary were that high, surely a part-timer working just 3 days a week would be making a small fortune too. With her usual condescending tone, my mother-in-law offered to handle the housework so I could focus on earning more. "You can't even manage the finances when my son makes so much money. You must be a big spender, right?" "No, I'm not," I replied. "I work from home and I'm not a spender. I work hard every day and save diligently." Ignoring my response, she continued, "Well, money aside, this apartment is too small for 3 adults." When I pointed that out, she casually suggested, "Then why don't we move to a bigger place or buy a house?" It felt like my husband had been completely brainwashed. His entire attitude had changed. I couldn't tell if he was just unable to stand up to his mother or if he genuinely wanted to live with her. He started pressuring me, telling me to stop being so stubborn, and then said something that made me seriously question everything. "Wouldn't it be more fun to live with my mother?" I was taken aback. "She's offered to take care of the housework. It would make things easier for you too, Florence," my husband added, fully on board with the idea of us all living together. I didn't know what to do and felt completely lost. I resisted the idea as long as I could, but my husband, growing frustrated, took drastic action. One day, while I was out, he moved out of the house. When I came home that evening and saw his things were gone, I immediately called him. "Where are you? All your stuff is gone." "Yeah, I moved out." "What? You never agreed to move in with your mom, so what's going on?" "I decided to just go ahead and buy a house." "Buy a house? With what money?" There was a brief pause. Then I heard a different voice on the line. It was my mother-in-law. "That's right. My son and I are going to live in the new house for a while. Maybe we'll consider living with you after you've had some time to think things over. But until then, I doubt you can even afford the rent on your own. You should be more grateful. Excuse me? I said, but my mother-in-law continued to hurl sarcastic comments. I felt so frustrated that I ended the call abruptly. They bought a house? I couldn't believe it. With their financial situation, there was no way they could afford such a purchase. I don't know where they are, but they can do whatever they want, honestly. I realized I could manage just fine on my own. I had been covering the rent with my own money, so I wasn't worried about being alone. The idea of divorce started to seem more realistic. A few days later, I received a call. Hey, it's been a while, Brother John. Did you know Ain and his mother are staying at my place? What? My brother owned a house, and shortly after purchasing it, he was transferred, leaving me in charge of managing the property. I rushed to check the safe in the bedroom, and to my shock, the key to my brother's house was missing. John, the key is gone. Have you called Ain? No, I'm outside the house right now. I'm sorry, John. It's a complicated situation, but I have a good idea of what's happening. What should I do? We could call the police, but their family. I doubt they'll get involved. True. I'm sorry, I'll handle it in a couple of days. Can you hold off for now? All right, let me know if there's anything I can do to help. Thanks. After ending the call with my brother, I dialed my husband. I hope you're feeling some regret now. Why is my mother-in-law answering the phone? Where are you? Oh, you don't sound very remorseful yourself. What's going on? Seriously, where are you? I don't owe you any explanations. You're clearly desperate, aren't you? You're not ready to give up a husband with a $99,000 monthly salary. $9,000 a month? Who are you talking about? Who else but my son? He's got enough money to buy a house like that. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. What's so funny? Ain mentioned that if you don't agree to his terms, he's prepared to go through with the divorce. I see. Well, if that's the case, then a divorce is just fine with me. How stubborn can you be? If he leaves you, you won't manage on your own, will you? Of course, I will. I'm not interested in staying with a husband who only earns $900 a month. There was silence on the other end of the line. It seemed my mother-in-law was at a loss for words. Hello? The mother of a man who earns just $900 a month? What are you talking about? I'm saying Ain makes $900 a month from his part-time job. You must be mistaken. You're missing a zero. No, I'm not. It's exactly $900 a month. When I asked Ain about his salary, he confirmed it. Yes, that's right, around 9. It's hard to believe that your son only makes $900 a month, but $99,000? That's a significant salary. Actually, it's my own earnings that cover all our expenses. Just to clarify, my salary is around $5,000 if that's what you're imagining. I'm not financially supported by him. My husband quit his job a few years ago and now only works part-time 3 days a week. When I explained this to my mother-in-law, she remained silent. I continued with my explanation. The house you think Ain bought is actually my brother's. This house wasn't purchased by Bob. It's my brother's property, and I've been managing it while his family lives elsewhere. He entrusted me with the key, and Ain took it without permission. What you and Ain have done is a clear criminal act, and I will be reporting it to the police. Hold on a minute, we'll leave, but please don't call the police, my mother-in-law quickly responded, slamming the phone down. I could imagine her and my husband having a furious argument. When I checked on my brother's house later, both my husband and mother-in-law were gone. It must have been a panic-driven exit. I immediately called my brother to apologize for the trouble my husband had caused. Then I turned my attention to the final step, filing for divorce from my selfish husband. I signed the divorce papers and sent them to my in-laws' house. Shortly after, my husband called me, frantic. Are you serious? I'm sorry about the house. Please reconsider. I can't stay married to someone who steals. Enjoy your life with your mother, who you seem to cherish so much. I can't live without you, he pleaded. Get a full-time job if you can. Good luck making $9,000 a month. My husband reluctantly signed the divorce papers, so I enlisted a lawyer to expedite the process. The divorce was granted without much trouble. I was finally free from the mother and son who had tried to force me into their home. My husband and mother-in-law continued to live in the same shabby house. He sought full-time employment through the unemployment office, But due to his extended period of part-time work, he struggled to find a company willing to hire him full-time. They are still surviving on his $900 monthly income, and his mother has resumed part-time work. The situation is far from ideal, with his mother constantly complaining and the two of them frequently arguing. I moved out of the apartment I shared with my husband and settled into a new place, free from the burden of supporting him. I'm now able to focus more on working from home. My income is steadily increasing, and once I've saved a bit more, I plan to buy a house for myself. It's clear that my husband never truly understood his own situation. If he had, he would have been grateful for my support. Instead, his lack of insight led to this outcome. It's fortunate that Florence decided to divorce him. She can now enjoy a more peaceful and